All right, your group, Charles has been out a little bit, precaution, but what have you seen from your group overall in fall camp?
I think really gelling pretty well, not just individually, but as a group, just going out, really understanding and pushing the standard and the expectation. Right now we feel like we got 4 or more guys that we can roll out there and there's no drop off. And, that's exciting because you get to see everybody in a different role. You get to save legs. You get to, just continue to mature that group and seeing them come together and push each other, hold each other accountable after practice, during practice, during reps is something that really makes us feel good about where we're at moving forward as we get 2 weeks outside the season.
Obviously there was quite a few of it came in the spring, a couple more guys now in the fall, but that influx of bodies, how have you seen them grow through this process and kind of getting used to you guys and coaching and the system and all of that?
I think it's always thought outside of sports or outside of football where people think guys got to come in and they got to adjust to us, and this is what we set the pace of everything, the standard of what it is. And that's accurate, but we also got to learn them, you know what I mean? And we got to adapt to them and what they do well, what do we need to hone in and focus on. I think that was what spring, you spend a whole lot of time doing, just getting them better at their craft, at things that you see to where they may have deficiencies here or there, whereas now then they come out in the fall, those have now become strengths. And now you can see them, like I said, kind of coaching each other. When you're an individual and I'm working with a guy, or I'm talking to somebody specifically, and then you see other guys when he's coming back from that line, hey man, this is what he's talking about, this is what it means. That helps for any guys that are young, that may not have that game day experience, but it also, just kind of infiltrates throughout the program, throughout the team. Now everybody's doing that. And when you got coaches on the field and real coaches off the field, right, that's what a good team is about. It's about being player-led and those guys pushing the standard and the expectation.
With Chris and Charles, they seem to have a general grip on the starting spots, at least from what we're watching, but what have you seen from the guys that keep pushing them and maybe in that conversation to start as well?
I think those guys have done a really good job coming out in the first week, just over a week and a half, of camp, of kind of sustaining where they were coming out of spring. By no means is any position safe because, a guy like Jahar Rogers has had a really good camp. He continues to improve daily, and he missed some reps in the spring, taking care of things off the field. And so now to see him come back in and start to get a feel, A.J. Davis has been a guy that's performing at a high level. Kabaris Hall's 200 pounds and showing that he can carry that and be physical in what he's doing. So, now you add, 3, 4 more names on top of those two, and we just got healthy competition. You got guys that, when you go out there, you can't say, all right, I can take the day off or I can slack a little bit because, guys are right there on your tail and chomping at the bit for their opportunity. So we rotate those guys with the ones. We really got about a 5 or 6 man rotation going just to see guys in different situations with that first group of offense or whoever that first group is with the offense, and just kind of being able to see their skill set because, obviously we'll get tested every day with the guys that we have on the other side of the ball in the receiver room.
A guy like Jahari, now, a little bit of a veteran of SMU football now, but not, didn't come necessarily in as a cornerback. What have you seen from him as he's developed into a guy that you can put out there and trust? I
think he has a foundation, and I don't know that he had that in year one when we came in the door. I think he was an athlete that was out there just playing and playing, at times at a high level and at times not at a high level. I think now honing in on being consistent and understanding what the foundation of what you've done and building on top of that. The previous spring and fall, now, like I said, didn't have a full spring under his belt, but coming back in these, 12 practices and continue to be able to build on that foundation, I think he becomes more comfortable. He becomes, it's not thinking. Now he can just react and go play, which we all know he has the skill set to do. But it's about being in those situations and having familiarity in what's going on.
Smoke and Keyshawn, 2 guys that are in their second year of college football but weren't here last year. What have you seen from them?
Smoke, he'll have a chance to contribute this year. First and foremost on special teams, but second of all defensively. I can put him out there, like I said, with the ones that, that group has gone out there with the ones and he's competed at a high level. We kind of got a player at a day deal going in each room, and he's collected that accolade 2 out of the 12 days that we've been going, you know what I mean? And so he's a multiple winner in that regard. But, I think the same for him in like a Jahari standpoint is that without that foundation, it's everything's new. And the more he can be in those same situations and you can continue to build, the better he's been. And now his knowledge of our defense from the beginning of spring, which was 0, to now, having a ability to go out there and function allows him not to play slow and play fast as he is. Keyshawn has done a good job. He's a big physical athlete. He's got a little bit more growing up to do, and we've only had him, this summer. Didn't get a chance to have him in the spring. But it's just a matter of him becoming familiar with me, becoming familiar with what our requirements are, and what he thinks the pushing the limit is not us pushing the limit. We show him, and now he's getting a grasp of that. But he continues to get better. You've seen him grow, particularly in the past 3 practices.
And how fun is that as a coach when you've got guys like Charles and Chris that probably had that foundation coming in? Jahari, as you see that kind of click, and then you have some of those younger guys where that's what you're trying to build, and kind of letting them do it on their own because you have the depth and not forcing them into some bad situations.
There's a lot. I'll be honest, it's like a lot like being a parent. You know what I mean? When you see your child do a good job, these guys just learning and seeing some things that you say kind of click. Like you said, I've known Chris now since he was in high school, coming in as a freshman at our time before here. And now I see him come in and he's early and he's getting stretched and he's taped and he's eating breakfast and he's in the meeting room 5 minutes before or more the meeting. You know what I mean? That wasn't Chris when he was 17. You know what I mean? And so to see that, you take pride in that because you have a hand in that. The same with Jahar. You know what I mean? Some things that he needed to take care of off the field academically. To see him grow in that regard and be a guy that's going to be leading younger guys. He's kind of taking Keyshawn under his wing and say, hey, man, this is how you do it. This is the right way. This is what coach is asking you. This is what he's looking for. It makes you pleased that they're listening, right? They're not just staring there, even though it may look like it. They're not just staring at you or staring through you. They're internalizing it, and therefore it's becoming a part of who they are as well.
Ahmad Moses got some time at safety late last year, but A.J. Davis kind of the same way, a little bit of time here and there last year as a first-year guy. How has he stepped up this fall camp, and what have you seen that's been more of that progression that you want to see? I
think the big thing for A.J. has been learning how to practice and play at this level. When you're a freshman, and at times you get in the mix, we put him in the mix early in Lamar just to see, you get that liberty with them being able to redshirt in 4 games, just him being in and sometimes and what that competitive level looks like. Well, now he knows when he steps on that practice field that it ain't jogging, it's running to where we got to go. It's not just, the whistle stops the play, it's me finishing through the play as the whistle's blowing. And I think he's grown in that regard. I think you're really able to see that in camp more than anything. I think, in the spring he still kind of has some of that high school to him, whereas now he's starting to really flush it. I think his peers are holding him in a high regard. They know he's talented. And I think the expectation for our room is really just next man up. So you may have to be the next man. We're going to all prepare you and help you to get to that point, even though we want to compete with you. But I know that it's not just me, it's we. And so being able to see him really kind of take that on, he become a little bit more outgoing, engaging, all of those things. You just see him maturing, and that's been positive.
And you touched on it earlier, but the wide receiver room, what does that do for your guys when it's not just maybe the top guy that gets to go against the top receiver, but, 1s, 2s, 3s are all going against top guys that when you go to Norman, when you go to Fort Worth, when you go to those tough conference games, those aren't the first time they're seeing a Jordan Hudson-like receiver.
As a coach, you can't ask for anything better than that. The room that we have built over there, that Coach Likens, as well as just our staff as a whole, has been able to put into place in the way that Rob coaches them. Because you can have talent, right? And you can have a talented room, but when you see those guys go out and execute what he's asking them to do, and you see them play at an elite level, now we're not taking practice reps. We take Saturday and game reps every day. And that's awesome for us, particularly for the younger guys, but it also pushes the level of the older guys, because now I feel like they help us to play at an elite level. We're not just getting reps and we're not just getting better, we're getting elite reps. We're getting Saturday reps. So when you go into Norman, when you go in La Tech, when they come here week 1, we're going to play at a level that if those guys haven't been practicing playing that, we have, and we feel like we're going to be in a really good position. And you just, go on down the list for the rest of the season. And so it creates healthy competition. It creates healthy rivalries. I think they've done a really good job of pushing the issue and therefore made us do the same. Just sharpening our blade back and forth. And I think the relationship that Rob and I have with one another, our guys see, and they kind of emulate that as well. It's not, hey, we got to get them or we got to get after them. Now, we're going to win and we want to win, but this is the way that we do it, and you understand that the guy that you're competing with is a high-level guy, just like you either are or aspire to be.
With the depth up front on the defensive line, I mean, how much does that help you guys on the back end? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but just what does that change?
Load it up, please.
Yeah.
It is, me and Tibbs joke, and I've said with D-lines before, it's peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other. And so when those guys are able to force the issue and get pressure on the quarterback or speed up a play, that allows us to play but not be hung out in coverage all day long. Our goal is to win no matter how long we have, but Tibbs getting the four dudes up front and moving and getting after the ball and speeding up that clock definitely helps us, and we understand that value and the value that they bring from a secondary standpoint, and we want to be the same for them. If for some reason they do pick us up, when we're bringing pressure, or if we're just our base defensive line, we want to be able to hold our own in coverage, so that now when they get a sack, it's because we did our job as well. And so we work hand in hand, and we really appreciate those guys. Make sure y'all tell Tibbs I said that too.
a lot of the guys are talking about being a top 25 defense. What do you have to see to see that come together still?
I try to. I guess first thing I do is tell them we're not going to talk about that. The habits will be put in place for you to beat that, and they're going to be very evident whether you are or you aren't, based on the habits that you develop. We've been fortunate enough to be in that position before as a defense, at previous stops, and what it looks like is nobody talking about it, everybody doing it. Because when you set a goal, it's very easy to leave it up there, and you say you work to it or towards it, and as you get closer, it becomes difficult, and then you say, maybe I set it a little too high. But what they got to understand is the goal that you set, the closer you get, the harder it's going to be. So you got to be able to persevere through adversity. You got to be able to continue to move forward when things don't go your way. You got to be able to endure tough times and what that looks like, and continue to move forward, because the closer you get, the harder it's going to be. And the reason people quit is because it becomes hard. All right, so let's not talk about it. Let's just go to work. Let's put our head down. Let's bring our lunch pail and let's go to work, and the rest will take care of itself.